Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this viewing party was for season 17 episode 3, and the guest this week was Joella. Today we're going to be talking about the truth about what really happened with Hormona Lisa's dress and the stones, Joella responds to the backlash that she got from the episode, and Hormona exposes Suzie Toot for breaking the rules. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Also, I'm so close to reaching 120,000 subscribers, which is so exciting. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. So they started out by saying that Lucky Stars was supposed to be the other guest at Roscoe's this week, but unfortunately she couldn't make it, so she's going to be at Roscoe's next week instead. They then watched a bit of the episode, and Naysha mentioned the Badunkadunk tank twist and saving someone from elimination that happened in the last episode, and Naysha asked Joella if on set it looked as produced as it seemed. Joella said that what they told the contestants was that Michelle had to leave to go and film something else, and they were all confused why Michelle would be double booked. Then, as they showed in Untucked, they got the contestants to go off stage, and Joella assumed that there was some kind of technical issue. Then they came back on stage, and RuPaul did the bit where they said they needed a virgin, and then they revealed Michelle in the dunk tank. And all the contestants were gagged because they genuinely didn't know that that was going to happen. Joella then asked if it looked produced, and everyone said yes and laughed, and Joella paused and said, quote, "I'm going to stay silent on that one." But Naysha said although they felt it was produced, they actually liked the twist because it gave the queens another chance to showcase their looks in another episode because they spend so much on their runway packages. Naysha then brought up the moment in last week's Untucked when Hormona Lisa asked Joella who she thought was in the bottom, and Joella said to Hormona that she was probably going to be in the bottom, and Naysha asked Joella if she contemplated being honest with her or not. Joella explained that she did contemplate it because she likes being honest, but she doesn't like hurting people's feelings. Then Joella said, quote, "I always contemplate, can this be take it, or is she going to cry and get mad at me? I thought she could take it, and that's all I'll say." And the audience gasped and laughed a bit. Caramel then asked Joella about some of the romances that seem to be forming on the season, such as between Corey and Lydia, as well as Arietti and Lucky, and Caramel asked Joella if the tension between them was real or were they just putting it on. Joella said it's definitely real and she's had conversations with those people, and the way that they talk about, quote, the people they are camping with in their bunk beds is very real. Joella also shared that every time the cast does something together, Corey and Lydia always stay in the same hotel room. And Joella said, quote, "they're effing girl," and everyone laughed. Naysha then asked if the season 17 cast has a group chat, and Joella said yes. Naysha then asked if any of the queens are mad at each other yet. Joella said they were, but over the past few months, they are all getting along and they all love each other. Joella then shared that she and Hormona had been messaging recently and they love each other, and the fight that happened on this week's episode between them happened so long ago when they filmed the show. Naysha then said that often in the group chats, people get mad and leave the chat, but Joella said that the season 17 cast didn't do that. Naysha then asked if Joella got upset seeing the girls talking about her behind her back in the confessionals. Joella said, to be honest, when she watched the episode, she was completely unaware that they had been saying those things behind her back, but she understands because if you say something about someone, they're going to bite back, especially queens like Corey and Lana. And Joella said although it did hurt her at first watching the episode, she realised that she was telling them to their face the way she felt, whereas they were, quote, running around scared, so she's not hurt anymore and she loves them. They then got to the part of the episode where the queens found out that this week's challenge was a design challenge, and Joella said that she didn't know how to sew, and Naysha asked her about it. Joella said when you're preparing for Drag Race, there's a lot that you have to prepare for and you get very overwhelmed. And Joella said she did have sewing lessons, but none of it sunk in and she can't remember any of it. And she commended people who can sew because it's really hard. Later, Joella shared a fun fact and said that in the past, she entered a local competition and she actually won the design challenge part of it against people that can sew. Naysha then asked what this competition consisted of and looked at the audience and everyone started laughing. Joella explained that they had to make an outfit using things that you'd find in your home. Naysha then jokingly asked whether that meant that she made these things at home with no supervision, but Joella said that this was during the pandemic and they both laughed. Joella then joked and said that if you could see the outfit, you would say that it looked like crap, and it did look bad, but she won and doesn't know how. And I did try and find a copy of the picture of this look, but I couldn't find that Joella had posted it anywhere. They then watched the part of the episode where Ru does the walkthroughs with the queens, and Naysha asked if anything happened that didn't get shown. Joella said everything that she said to Ru did get shown, but in the confessional, she did say that the reason she didn't want to change her outfit design was because she wanted to wear something that she could perform in, presumably because she knew that she was likely going to be in the bottom, but they didn't show that part of the confessional. Naysha then asked if Joella was in the headspace already that she knew she was going to have to lip sync. Joella said that looking around, pretty much everyone in the cast can sew, and 2 + 2 = 4, so because she can't sew, she knew she'd probably end up in the bottom too, but she felt confident that she could save herself in the lip sync. Joella also said that a lot of queens on season 17 learnt how to sew just for Drag Race, and nowadays lots of queens don't know how to sew, and there are more traditional queens who do know how to sew, and Joella thinks it's a good thing to know how to sew, but a lot of up-and-coming queens don't know how to sew, so when they get the call for Drag Race, they specifically learn how to sew. Later, Naysha said that Joella had said the design challenge was the challenge that she was most afraid for, but which challenge was she most excited about or hoping for? Joella said she really wanted to do a Rusical because she loves musical theatre, music and performing, so she really wanted a Rusical. And some people started laughing almost a bit awkwardly, presumably because Joella may have inadvertently spilled that either there was no Rusical on the season or that she gets eliminated before the Rusical, although this is just a guess and is not confirmed, and then they quickly moved on. They then watched the part of the episode where the queens were making their design challenge outfits, and Joella shared that although it wasn't shown in the edit, Hormona Lisa actually helped Joella a lot with her outfit, and she let Joella borrow one of her sewing patterns, and she also cut out Joella's pattern for her, and then Acacia helped Joella with the sewing. Joella also said that Drag Race updated the sewing machines and they're now really high-tech with touchscreens, and even the queens who do know how to sew were confused by them. There was then a part of the episode when Jules Sparkles was mad at Onya Nerve because Onya had taken the rest of the trim, which Jules had said that she needed, and Jules then confronted Onya about it and they argued in the workroom. Naysha asked Joella if that is how it happened or was it worse in real life. Joella said what we saw in the episode was an accurate depiction of what happened, but what we didn't see in the episode was that the night before when the queens were leaving, Jules did go up to some of the queens and say something about it, and then the next day at lunch, Onya came up to Joella and said that Jules was getting on her nerves, and Jules also said that Onya was getting on her nerves. But at first, Joella really didn't think anything of it, and then all of a sudden it went down. Caramel then said that what we didn't see in the episode was the exchange between Lexi Love and Hormona Lisa when Lexi called Hormona out for using her own stones on her outfit, which isn't allowed. And Hormona looked annoyed and came into the workroom and had to pull off all of the stones. And Caramel asked Joella what really happened. Joella explained that in the morning, they gave the queens an extra hour to finish their garments. Joella was with Acacia, who was helping her sew her outfit, and Joella said she had already clocked that Hormona was using her own stones, which isn't allowed, but Joella didn't say anything about it. But then, out of nowhere, they heard Lexi yelling, and she was saying, quote, "No, you know you're not supposed to do that, you're playing dirty, you're cheating, that's cheating." and apparently Hormona said that they were her earrings and she was allowed to put them on her outfit, but Lexi just shouted, quote, "No, this is wrong." And Joella said it was intense, but none of it was caught on camera, and she didn't think they were going to keep it in the episode because it all happened off camera. Naysha then asked, did Hormona just rip off the stones, or did a producer have to come on set? Naysha then said, quote, "Was it Mandy? Because we all love Mandy." And then Naysha made a face and looked at the audience and everyone laughed. Just in case you don't know, previously at Roscoe's, Naysha has made several not-so-complimentary comments about a producer named Mandy, and it's become quite a well-known thing. Joella smiled and then said, quote, "Like Hormona said, she was told to not continue with those on her outfit, so she was told." Naysha then said, quote, "Effing Mandy, I know it was you, B. I know you watched this show. I know it was you, Mandy. Good job." Also, regarding this moment between Lexi and Hormona, I saw that some extra drama happened to do with this on Twitter. So, shortly after the episode came out, Suzie Toot tweeted saying, "Oh, y'all should have been there when Lexi let Hormona have it. God, I wish the cameras were up." Hormona then responded to Suzie's tweet and said, "She did not let me have it." A Twitter user then replied to Hormona and said, "If anything, she was helping you from getting into trouble." But Hormona said, "That's literally not it either, lol." Hormona also replied to Suzie's original tweet and said, "Loved the stones on your little headpiece." And presumably Hormona was exposing the fact that Suzie also used her own stones on the outfit, which is not allowed. And people in the comments then started questioning whether Suzie also broke the rules. And interestingly, Suzie deleted her tweet shortly after this happened. Hormona subsequently tweeted saying, "Who else also used rhinestones brought from home? Clock it." Season 16 contestant Geneva Carr then tweeted saying that on season 16 in the Mother Ball, someone used chains that they brought from home, and she told them in private that they can't do that. And she said, "I was so nice, Hormona, I would have let you use those stones." People then started speculating that Suzie had tried to joke about Hormona using the stones, but actually Hormona had exposed the fact that Suzie had also broken the rules. There were also some people questioning whether Lexi herself had also used stones on her own outfit, and was it therefore hypocritical for her to call out Hormona? Lexi later tweeted and said, "Let me set the record straight. Suzie also broke the rules with Hormona and I called both of them out. However, Hormona was the only one that brought it up once we were filming. Secondly, the stones on my fit were from the challenge table. Clock it." People in the comments then started saying that Lexi was snitching. But Lexi replied saying, "Get yourself together, Hormona snitched on herself." A few other queens also commented on Lexi's tweet, such as Jules Sparkles, who said, "Lexi, be a sister, oh my god." Candy Muse said, "B, I would have snitched too, production, she's cheating." And Lana Duray said, "Suzie catching strays." Suzie then retweeted Lexi's tweet and said, "Just got off the phone with RuPaul, I'm disqualified, they are editing me out of the season, thanks Lexi." Although this is presumably a joke. And I thought this was an interesting backstory that we didn't hear in the episode, and it sounds like Suzie also potentially broke the rules, but Hormona and Lexi have now both called her out about it. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Naysha asked Joella what it was like hearing the critiques about her outfit. Joella said people love to call her delusional, but Joella agreed and said that she didn't come prepared, and it was her own fault and she deserved the critiques that she got. Joella also explained that you have to walk the runway twice, and after she did the first walk, she remembers the way the judges were looking at her, and when she was backstage, she started bawling, crying, because she was so disappointed in herself, and knew that she hadn't done as well as she wanted to, and that she had to walk the runway again. They then talked a bit more about the critiques, and Joella said what she didn't like was that her critiques were that she wasn't prepared, whereas with Lucky's critiques, they just said it wasn't in her wheelhouse. Then Joella said, quote, "B, she makes bleep for a living, what are you talking about? I don't make anything, I'm not in my wheelhouse." The other host, Batty Davis, then said that Lucky doesn't use a sewing machine, and Joella said, quote, "Me either." And then there was a bit of an awkward pause and people laughed. Batty then asked how much help Joella got with her outfit, and Joella said Hormona cut her pattern out for her, but that was it. And then Acacia helped Joella set up her sewing machine about 10 times, but the needle kept popping. So eventually Joella got out the hot glue gun to do the outfit. They then watched the part of the episode when Joella landed in the bottom and had to lip sync against Lucky, and Naysha asked how she felt. Joella said she knew she was going to be in the bottom, but she felt confident because she's a performer, and she knew that she was going to beat Lucky. Caramel then said that in Untucked, some of the other queens were being less sympathetic than they were being in person, and Cara asked Joella if anyone voiced their concerns to Joella in that moment. Joella said no, and she's reacting to it in real time watching the episode, but it's weird because they were so nice in person. But what annoyed Joella is that she is well known in LA, so she doesn't know why they edited it that way in Untucked when Joella was saying that, and they kept cutting to the other queens making faces about what Joella was saying. Joella also said that some of the queens had even been calling her by her old drag name, which was Joella Perry, so they must have known her and have followed her from before. So she's not sure why they were acting like that when Joella was saying how well known she is in LA. She also said that what she doesn't like is that the other queens chose that moment to be shady about her. In other moments, she was okay with it, but in that moment, that was a moment that Joella didn't really want to share, but she was so emotionally overwhelmed that it came out. But during Untucked, Joella said she noticed that a lot of the queens were ignoring her and that they were more catering to Lucky, and Joella felt, quote, abandoned. But she said it's okay because she always finds her own way and she sent Lucky home. They moved on and Naysha said Arietti won the challenge, and the other said no, it was Sam Starr, but Naysha said Arietti basically won. Naysha said she thinks that if Arietti had won, Sam wouldn't have cared and would just have moved on, whereas she thinks because Sam won, Arietti would be annoyed and it would mess with her head and she'll be vocal and be dramatic about it. And Naysha thinks Arietti did win the runway in her opinion. Joella then said, referring to Arietti, quote, "I mean, I agree, but hopefully she finds the words to convey what she's feeling inside because she don't know how to talk." And then some people in the audience gasped. They then watched the part of Untucked when Joella went up to Lucky and said that they were both probably going to be in the bottom, and Joella was sad because she was going to have to send Lucky home because she knew she was going to beat her in the lip sync. Batty said that Joella is, quote, wild for saying that, and Cara said some people say it's delusion, but she just thinks it's C-wordy confidence. Naysha then said in her opinion, Joella was not playing fair in that moment and was trying to get in Lucky's head, and she asked Joella if that was the strategy. Joella said that really wasn't what she was trying to do. If it was any of the other queens, then yes, she would have played that strategy, but Lucky is such a sweetheart, and the cast was so nurturing to her, and Lucky, quote, doesn't have a shady bone in her body. And Joella said she did feel bad, and that's why she wanted to go up to Lucky and tell her that she didn't want to send her home, but she was going to send her home. Batty then asked Joella, was it maybe because the other girls were supporting Lucky and giving her her moment, whereas they weren't doing that for Joella? Joella said it was more so because she felt like this was the last time she would get to speak to Lucky, quote, before I never see her again. And some people in the audience gasped and laughed a bit, but Naysha clarified that when you get eliminated, you really don't see anyone until months later. The episode ended, and Naysha read out the names of all of the first eliminated queens from Drag Race and said it's so hard being the first out queens and they always get overlooked, so make sure you go and follow them online and support them, such as Lucky Stars, and everyone cheered. They then moved on to the Q&A, and an audience member said they've changed Untucked because you used to see the eliminated queen packing up their stuff and reading letters from other queens, and they asked Joella if that's still the case. Joella said they changed a lot of Untucked now, but you do get to leave letters for the eliminated queen, but they didn't show any of it in the episode. And they also don't do the part anymore in Untucked where the eliminated queen drives off in the van. And Joella said, quote, "I was looking forward to it, and then they didn't do it. I was like, what?" And finally, they had a video message from Blue Hydrangea, who was on Drag Race UK Season 1, and she was also the winner of UK vs. the World Season 1. And Blue asked a few different questions. The first question was whether that was the genuine reaction when they found out Katy Perry was a guest judge, because Blue said on UK vs. the World, RuPaul would shout out crass and inappropriate things to get the queens to react bigger because they didn't have a clue who the guest judges were. Joella said that she had heard people say before that the queens are told to react bigger, but that's actually false. And even though some people are not very fond of Katy Perry right now, that was the genuine reaction because a lot of the queens grew up listening to her and perform her songs, so it was a big deal for her to be a guest judge. Blue's second question was, did they actually film the squirrel games in episode 1 before they entered the workroom as was shown in the episode? Joella said yes, they did film squirrel games before the workroom entrances, and that was the first time she saw all of the queens. And that's also why her wig kept sliding back, because they had been in their outfits at that point for about 7 hours, and she also said that she couldn't stand up or sit down while she was in her trailer beforehand. And finally, Blue asked, does Joella think that Hormona was always going to stay regardless of which lever she chose, or did she just pick Lucky? Joella nodded and said, I think she picked Lucky, right guys? You know, Hormona, she's like smart, you know? But it sounded like Joella was probably being a bit sarcastic. And Naisha finished by saying, quote, by Lucky you mean produced, and people laughed. Also, just as some extra information outside of Roscoe's, I saw that in the RPDR drama subreddit that Lexi Love had posted an Instagram story saying, to those at Roscoe's tonight, really though? However, she deleted the story pretty quickly after she posted it, which is why I didn't see it. There were then several theories on Reddit as to why Lexi may have posted that, but a lot of people seem to think that what Lexi was saying was that apparently the audience at Roscoe's really wasn't living for Joella and they weren't cheering for her, and maybe Lexi found out about it and was calling it out. And I don't know if this is the case or not, but in the comments on the Roscoe's YouTube video, there were some comments criticising Joella, saying that she was unlikable. But then there were also quite a lot of comments defending Joella and saying that she was just being entertaining, and they also said that there was a weird energy at Roscoe's this week. And Joella seemingly responded to the criticism that she got, not just from Roscoe's but also from the episode in general. And after the episode, Joella tweeted saying, I identify with my haters because we both love judging things we're not qualified to judge. Just know you're suffering from delusional dynasty disease too. Your symptoms are just so strong that you don't know it. But as I always say, please do not send hate to any of the queens. They are giving us entertainment on a TV show and it's really not that serious. And Roscoe's is also providing us with well-produced, interesting content. So please keep mean comments to yourself and just consume these types of videos passively. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for Season 17, Episode 3. Were you surprised about the elimination this week? And what do you think of Season 17 so far? Let me know in the comments. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my newest Patreon member, Riot, who joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Riot, you are a winner, baby. And I would just like to say thank you so much to my Patreon members. Your support is truly incredible. I am so humbled and so appreciative of all of your support. I really love seeing you have your say comments. I really love this community that I've built on Patreon. So thank you all so much for supporting me. It really does mean more than you know. If you liked this video, please make sure you like and comment on the video because it really helps boost the algorithm and tell YouTube to promote this to other people. And please make sure you subscribe because it really makes a huge difference to my channel. So hit that subscribe button now. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you'll join me again for some future videos. Thank you, bye!